Hello everyone, it's Jeff. Welcome to another one of my videos. This is another spin zone. This is spin zone number 20. Yeah, I'm getting up there with these things. Busy week around the Kempen household. Plumbers were hard at work on Monday. Some of you may have seen the pictures I posted on Facebook. And they didn't come yesterday, but today, sometime this afternoon, they're supposed to come back and continue the work. Jetting out my old sewer line, cleaning it out, making it smooth again so everything flows right. And tomorrow the liner gets put in. And then, fingers crossed, this should take care of the problem. Then my next task is going to be to get some landscaping done in my front yard, because I'm looking at it right now and I'm pretty sure I've got grubs, which destroyed my front lawn late last summer when the grass just turned brown and never came back, and I can just peel it up in strips and you can see there's no roots. That'll be my next task. Fix that problem and get my lawn redone and get my grass that got destroyed on the side of my house where they did all the digging for my sewer line. And some of it is my neighbor's, so I gotta fix that too. I don't really like my neighbor, but I gotta at least fix his grass. I feel bad. Well, anyway, moving right along. I was able to meet up with my new friend Russ, as you saw in my video yesterday. And once again, fingers crossed, Telefunken will be funky again. That's what I'm hoping for. So a lot of stuff going on as usual. And in between all of those things, I was able to listen to some records. Some of which I shared on Facebook, like Morphine's first album. Good. It's not just good, it's great. I had to make that joke, I'm sorry. I know, lame joke. Okay. When I got Cure for Pain from my good buddy Brad, who sent it to me as VCLT, I looked around to see what other Morphine albums were available on vinyl, and it turns out I think they all are. And I used to have them all on CD, but they're all gone. So really, their first two albums, this one and Cure for Pain, were the ones that I liked the best, so those were the ones that I wanted to own on vinyl. So I rebought this on vinyl. And basically, I mean, the sound is not all that different from Cure for Pain. I mean, most of these songs, these are the songs that I was the most familiar with while listening to them. These were this album was, one of the ones that I listened to the most, which is why I thought it deserved a rebuy on vinyl. So basically, you've heard me talk enough about Morphine. I mean, you pretty much know what the deal is with them. It's just saxophone, two-string bass, and drums is their instrumentation. Mark Sandman writes these kind of noirish lyrics. He's got a very deep voice. And they were just a good band. I saw them a couple times, and it was a great show always. And it's a shame that they're not around anymore. But we'll always have the records, and this is a good listen. A good listen, yeah? Okay. Moving right along. Another guy that I need to buy or find more of their records of, is that the most awkward sentence ever? I don't know. Is Robin Hitchcock. Now this one here is called Globe of Frogs. This came out in 1988, I believe. 87, 88. And this was probably the closest thing that Robin Hitchcock's ever had to a hit, because Balloon Man is on this album, and it's probably, like I said, the one song that was the closest he ever got to having a hit. But that's not saying that the rest of this album is bad, because songs like Sleeping with Your Devil Mask, Chinese Bones, the title track, Globe of Frogs, even the closing track, Flush Number One, with Beetle Dennis in parentheses. These are all great, catchy songs. Robyn Hitchcock is very much like XTC in that he can write these quirky songs with kind of offbeat lyrics that don't really make sense, but they work. You know, it's kind of absurdist almost in a way, I guess. And I know he was really influenced by Syd Barrett, if that helps you get an idea of like where he's coming from with his music. And he's got a huge catalog, and I never find this stuff in the wild. And unless I actively hunt them down online, I don't really see them too much in auctions either. But this one I happened to get it in an auction, so I was pretty excited about it. This was when he was on a major label. He was on A&M Records for a couple years, and I think this was the biggest album when he was on that label. Yeah, I love Robyn Hitchcock, and to this day he still puts out records. I mean, I obviously haven't listened to them all. I want to very badly find more of these on vinyl. So that's probably going to be one of the things that I actively look for in this year as we go along, because he's really good. And if you have any interest at all in his music, this would probably be a good album to start with, because damn near every song is great. It's kind of, I don't really want to say alternative, but you know, he got played on some of the alternative stations. Some of his songs are kind of jangly, kind of jangle pop. You know, they're real catchy. And he's one of these guys that I always wonder why he never became a more famous than just like a cult hero, I guess, is about the best way to describe him. So, Globe of Frogs is a great album, great listen. And to me, I mean, the only other album of his I have is Fegmania, which came out a couple years before this one. That's a great album too. I think this one would be a better introduction simply because it had the hit, and more people would probably have a better chance of hearing it. So, Globe of Frogs, great album by Robyn Hitchcock when he was with the Egyptians. Probably his best backing band. Okay, moving right along to one that I pulled for when I was making my top 100 list. I showed this on Facebook. I listened to this the other day. It's Derek and the Dominoes, Layla, and Other Assorted Love Songs. That's the full title of the album. And when I pulled this for my list, just quickly show you the gatefold here. You can see. When I pulled this for my top 100, this, you know, I looked at this and I was like, man, I really need to listen to this all the way through, because I originally bought this on cassette in the 80s, and I probably haven't listened to it all the way through in at least 20 years, maybe. So I set it aside instead of putting it back in the stacks, and just wanted to reacquaint myself with the record, and you know, it's great. I mean, I think I said this when I showed it for my top 100. You know, this is probably the most passionate and emotional and fiery that Eric Clapton ever got with his music. You know, he was doing real blues when he made this record. You know, he was like pouring his heart out to George Harrison's wife. I know. The story behind this album is almost as compelling as the record itself. You know, it's kind of like Rumors that way, you know. I mean, he makes this sprawling double album as basically a love letter to George Harrison's wife. I mean, isn't that the cardinal sin of the bro code? You don't go after another guy's wife, especially when he's your best friend. What's up with that, Eric? But even through all of it, after making this album and playing it for her, she still turned him down. According to what I just watched a documentary on Clapton that just came out called Life in 12 Bars. And even after she listened to this, she still turned him down. I mean, they ended up getting married years later, I believe, when she left George. But that had to be just a crushing blow to play these songs like Bell Bottom Blues, Layla, Why Does Love Got to Be So Sad, you know, where he's just aching and yearning for, and she still turns him down. Ugh. So yeah, that's that kind of adds a little to the mystique of this album, but at its core, the music is really what it's all about, and the music's pretty great. So I got reacquainted with this one again. This is probably, well, it's probably one of my top favorite albums by Clapton. I don't know how popular this was when it came out. I think it flopped. It wasn't until later that I think it became more famous, but I don't know. I like it, even though, you know, I don't always like everything that Eric Clapton puts out, but Layla is really good. And speaking of something that's really good that I kind of really didn't expect it to be good, a couple of videos back, I showed you album by Mike Nesmith called The Wichita Train Whistle Sings, and that record was probably one step above like a novelty record to me, in my opinion. And I kept it, you know, I'll keep it in my collection, it's fine. But I've heard some talk about the band that he was in after he released that album. And they released a trio of albums in the early 70s, and this one here is, I think the middle one's the second one. It's Mike Nesmith and the First National Band. The title is called Loose Salute. And yeah, it's missing a patch here on the front cover, but other than that, you know, it's still in decent shape. There's Mike and the band. And yeah, I'd heard some people complimenting these albums, and I was curious, so I streamed some of the songs on it, and I thought it was pretty decent, and I actually found this for like $5 online, so I just bought it. And I actually got another one that you'll see in a future video too, which I haven't listened to yet. But the song Silver Moon, which I think was the single released off this album, is actually a pretty decent song. I know a lot of people refer to this kind of like as country rock, but they don't really rock that hard. If anything, I think I would probably call this country pop, because, I mean, there's a pedal steel in almost every track. And, I mean, they cover I Fall to Pieces, and it's a pretty straight cover. You know, they don't really go too crazy with it. But, I mean, if you took the pedal steel out of these songs, it would probably just be basic, average pop songs. Very good, though. I mean, I was surprised by how much I enjoyed this record. I actually listened to this yesterday. And I'll probably be listening to this again in the near future. I really enjoyed it. Oh, and of course, I have to show you. It's not a Dinah Flex record. As you can see, it's on the RCA label. It's not Dinah Flex. But it's so thin, and I know people hate it when I do that, but it's so much fun. It's so thin. And as I was telling Russ when he was over yesterday, I was showing him this record. In the quiet spaces between the tracks, this record is so thin that I told him when I was listening to it, you could hear an echo, like a very faint echo of the song that was on the other side of the record. like in between songs, I would hear this faint little echo of like someone singing or music playing, and then the next song would start up. So this thing, it's so thin that the songs just bled through from one side to the other. I mean, the sound is good, don't get me wrong, but it's thin. The other Nesmith album I've got, it's called Nevada Fighter. I think it was the third album they did, and that one is Dinah Flex. So, it's like, how much more could they scam? We're gonna make this record sound better and use less vinyl. We're gonna make it thinner. Nah. It plays good. Like I said, the sound is good. I can't complain. If you have a heavy enough platter on your turntable, it plays just fine. But yeah, I was surprised at how much I enjoyed this album. Loose Salute by Mike Nesmith and the First National Band. Pretty good stuff, I have to say. Pretty good stuff. And finally, what I listened to this morning, as I was cleaning a batch of records, was the great Albert King. I'll Play the Blues for You on the Stax record label. This came out in 1972. You can see the track list there. And this was a little smoother than some of his other earlier albums. There's a horn section on just about every song. And his guitar playing is a little more refined and restrained. He doesn't really cut loose the way he did on other albums of his that I've got. But, I mean, it was still a great listen, don't get me wrong. He's a great singer. He's obviously a great guitar player. It's just that the backing band is a lot more funky and soulful. It's not like pure straight blues. It's kind of mixed with, a little soul, a little funk, with his guitar on top. It's good stuff. It reminds me a lot of like what Robert Cray would go on to do with his records in a lot of cases. Very great music, but I like my blues. A lot of the time I like my blues a little more down and dirty. Not quite so refined and restrained. That's just the way. That's just me, And he's certainly capable of doing it. But on this one, he sounds a little more laid back. He lets the band do a lot for him, and he solos in every song, and they sound great. Can't complain. But there's probably better albums out there by Albert King. And I was happy to get any Albert King album, so that's why I grabbed this. I mean, I'd never heard it before. And I'm glad to have it. And I'll listen to it, again. But it's a little too smooth. And I like my blues a little rougher and grittier. What can I say? Okay, that's it for this time. I'm going to cut it off here. We're over 18 minutes. I'm trying to keep these videos short. I know I say that every time, and I keep babbling. So I'm going to cut it off and just thank everybody for liking and commenting and subscribing. I love it when you guys comment. I try to do my best to answer everyone. And thank you for all my new subscribers. I'm still getting new subscribers every week, and I appreciate it. To all of you who are new to the channel, welcome. And yeah, I will talk to you guys soon. So take care. Peace out, and I'll see you.